Every morning, millions of older adults across the world begin their day with a familiar routine. Getting out of bed, heading to the bathroom, reaching for the toothbrush, and staring into the mirror as they begin the quiet, rhythmic motion of brushing their teeth. And while this moment may seem simple, even mundane, it holds a hidden power because within those few minutes lies a unique opportunity to check in on something far more important than dental hygiene, and that is brain health, particularly memory and cognitive function, which are often neglected until there's a visible problem, but by then it's already progressed. And this is exactly why medical professionals and neurologists are now encouraging the use of quick, daily check-ins like the 3-question dementia test that can be performed quietly and privately during everyday activities such as brushing your teeth. Because early signs of cognitive decline often hide in plain sight. Slight changes in how someone speaks, subtle lapses in memory, or moments of confusion that feel fleeting and easy to brush off. But collectively, they can indicate something deeper, something that needs attention. And the beauty of this approach is that it empowers seniors and caregivers alike to pay attention without fear, without pressure, and without needing to schedule complicated medical appointments. Because if something can be caught early, it can often be managed better, slowed down, or at the very least prepared for with more clarity and support. And the key lies not just in the test itself, but in the quiet moments of self-awareness it encourages. Moments where we check in not just on our bodies, but on our minds. Because brushing your teeth is a ritual, something you already do, something that requires no additional effort. And when you layer these simple cognitive questions into that routine, they begin to form a baseline. A quiet inner dialogue where you can begin to recognize what feels normal and what feels off. And over time, even small changes become easier to spot. And this matters deeply, especially after age 60, when the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia begins to increase. Not because age itself causes it, but because with age comes a natural slowing of certain neural pathways. And without regular use, without stimulation, without awareness, those pathways can begin to fade. And once they do, regaining them becomes difficult. So the earlier we become aware, the better our chances of maintaining independence, clarity, and confidence in daily life. And it's also important to understand that dementia isn't just one disease. It's a spectrum of cognitive decline that can begin in incredibly subtle ways, from forgetting why you walked into a room, to misplacing objects in unusual places, to repeating questions without realizing you've already asked them. And while any one of these events can happen to anyone from time to time, it's the pattern that matters. And the 3-question dementia test is designed to gently reveal whether that pattern is forming. And the reason brushing your teeth is the perfect time for this is because it's a consistent, quiet activity where your hands are busy, but your mind is free, allowing space for reflection, for internal check-ins. And for these 3 simple but revealing questions that can highlight whether your memory, orientation, and reasoning are functioning as they should. And even though the questions themselves are basic, designed to be answered without external help, they are rooted in decades of clinical research on how early-stage dementia presents. And the earlier it's detected, the more options become available, not just medically, but in terms of lifestyle changes, memory support strategies, nutrition, brain training, and social engagement, all of which are known to support cognitive health. And what's especially powerful about making this a daily habit is that it removes the stigma and fear that often surround dementia screening, replacing it with empowerment and proactive care, which is far more effective than waiting for others to notice something is wrong. And while no self-test can replace a formal medical diagnosis, they serve as essential first lines of defense, alerting you or your loved ones when it's time to seek further evaluation. And that knowledge, that early signal, can make all the difference in preserving the quality of life, allowing for planning, support, and even interventions that can delay the progression of symptoms. And this approach also benefits caregivers and family members who often struggle with knowing when to step in or how to talk about concerns without offending or frightening their loved ones. Because when the individual is engaged in their own self-checks, these conversations become easier, more collaborative, and less emotionally charged. And the act of brushing your teeth becomes a ritual not just of bodily care, but of mental wellness, creating a moment each morning and night to pause, reflect, and stay anchored in reality, orientation, and identity, all of which are critical components of long-term brain health. And so many older adults have already begun using these kinds of self-check-ins to stay sharp and alert, not out of fear, but out of respect for their own independence. Because aging with dignity means taking ownership of both physical and mental health. And this three-question method is one of the most accessible tools we have for doing just that, transforming an ordinary act into something meaningful, intentional, and life-affirming. And as this quiet practice continues, morning after morning, something remarkable happens. Not only do you begin to tune in to your cognitive state more intentionally, but you also start developing a habit of mental presence, a subtle but powerful way to keep your brain engaged in the routines that define your day. And this gentle, repetitive rhythm of brushing while asking yourself these questions becomes more than a memory check. It evolves into a form of mental calibration, where small fluctuations in your attention, awareness, or ability to recall details can be noticed without judgment or panic, just observed as information. And the more consistently you do it, the more confident you become in your ability to recognize what is normal for you versus what might signal a shift. Because the human brain, even in its later decades, is astonishingly adaptable, and its resilience can be enhanced with small, deliberate practices like this, which activate neural pathways that might otherwise go unused, especially when daily life becomes too routine or passive. And that's part of the hidden challenge in later life. While some routines are comforting, others can become mentally numbing if they don't require active engagement. And without stimulation, the brain gradually reduces its processing speed and efficiency. But when you use these moments, such as brushing your teeth, to engage with even basic cognitive prompts, you essentially nudge your brain into staying alert, asking it to retrieve, to reason, to orient itself. And in doing so, you're giving it the same kind of maintenance and attention you give your physical body. And just like exercise keeps muscles strong and joints flexible, mental prompts keep memory circuits firing and orientation skills active. And in this way, brain health doesn't have to rely solely on puzzles or apps or special supplements. It can be supported through consistent, mindful practices that are easy to integrate into daily life without stress or burden. And one of the reasons this method is gaining attention among geriatric specialists and neurologists is because it meets older adults exactly where they are, using what they already do every day instead of demanding something new or complicated. And that's a game changer, especially for those who are already feeling overwhelmed by medical advice, appointments, or lifestyle changes. And the key lies in simplicity. 3 questions asked during an ordinary routine, requiring no tools, no screens, and no extra time. And this kind of simplicity makes the habit easy to maintain, which is essential for any health strategy to be effective, because consistency is what creates real change. And the questions themselves, while they may seem simple, are chosen with intention to stimulate different cognitive domains: time awareness, spatial orientation, and memory retrieval. So you're not just guessing whether you feel foggy that day, you're actually giving your brain a structured opportunity to perform. And that performance, over time, builds a self-awareness that many seniors report as both comforting and empowering. Because even when they notice a slip or moment of confusion, the very act of catching it early gives them a sense of agency, a sense that they're not just passive observers of decline, but active participants in maintaining their cognitive health. And this is a radically hopeful shift, especially in a world where dementia is still often framed as something inevitable or irreversible. Because while it's true that not all forms of cognitive decline can be prevented, the trajectory and severity can be influenced by early awareness, proactive habits, and a support system that takes those early signs seriously. And this is where the brushing routine becomes more than personal. It can be shared within families, between partners, or even among peers, opening a quiet door to conversations that otherwise might feel too scary or taboo. And when done daily, this test creates a kind of mental journal, a baseline that helps you recognize whether today feels different than yesterday, whether your memory retrieval is slower, or your awareness of the date or place is fuzzier than usual. And when that happens, it doesn't have to be frightening. It could be a cue to rest more, to reduce stress, to check in with a healthcare provider, or to share concerns with a loved one. And that early detection is key because dementia rarely starts with dramatic forgetfulness. Instead, it begins with small cracks in the smooth surface of routine cognition. And those cracks can be spotted long before they become deep, disruptive fractures. And this test, used regularly, becomes a gentle flashlight that helps illuminate those early shadows so they don't grow unchecked. And perhaps most importantly, this practice helps seniors reclaim something that is too often taken from them in the aging process: trust in their own awareness. Because even as certain things slow down with age, intuition remains strong. And when older adults are given tools to listen to their own experience, to validate what they notice in themselves, the result is a kind of confidence that no test score or diagnosis can provide. And that confidence feeds directly into quality of life, into emotional well-being, and into the daily choices that either nourish or deplete the mind. So this simple act, this daily ritual of brushing and checking in, becomes an anchor, a quiet, private way to stay present, engaged, and alert. And when done consistently, it doesn't just help detect problems, it helps build a mental habit of resilience, awareness, and self-care that supports brain health from the inside out. And this growing sense of mental self-awareness, this deepening connection to how the mind feels and functions each day, becomes even more significant when we recognize how many older adults silently wrestle with worries about memory and cognition, but feel unsure of how or when to talk about it, often brushing off lapses as just aging or attributing confusion to poor sleep or stress. But behind those casual explanations lies something very real: the fear of what memory loss might mean. And this fear can lead to avoidance, to denial, or to a slow withdrawal from engaging with the world. Yet the truth is that acknowledging these concerns doesn't make them more likely to come true. In fact, facing them head-on is the only way to bring clarity, perspective, and choice into the process. And that's what this quiet brushing routine does so effectively. It creates a private, non-judgmental moment to explore what's really going on in the mind, away from the noise of well-meaning family members or the intimidating atmosphere of clinical setting. It's just you, your reflection, and the rhythm of your thoughts. And within that space, the three-question test becomes a gentle but revealing mirror, not just of how the brain is working, but of how comfortable you are checking in on yourself. And that's an emotional skill too, one that's rarely talked about, but vitally important. Because the more at ease we become with monitoring our mental clarity, the more likely we are to speak up when something doesn't feel right. And speaking up early makes all the difference, not only in managing cognitive decline, but in reducing the stress, shame, and isolation that often accompany it, especially when changes begin to show up in daily life, like trouble managing appointments, forgetting familiar names, or struggling to follow a recipe you've made for years. And while these may seem small on their own, the pattern matters, and recognizing that pattern in its infancy can lead to better outcomes, more personalized care, and far more time planned for the future while still feeling fully yourself. And what's incredible is that for many seniors, this test becomes more than a check. It becomes a confidence builder, a daily affirmation that they are still sharp, still capable, still present, and that knowledge builds emotional resilience, a quality that research shows is directly linked to better brain health in later years. Because when the mind is engaged and the emotions are grounded, stress levels drop, sleep improves, and the brain is able to consolidate memories more effectively. And what's equally important is that this routine doesn't require perfection. It's not about passing or failing, but about noticing trends, small shifts, a growing ease or difficulty in answering. And that self-observation is a form of preventative care that many neurologists now emphasize as crucial in an aging population, especially as dementia becomes more prevalent in resources. Care become more stretched, and by taking ownership of this small, personal check-in, older adults can stay one step ahead, identifying when it's time to seek support before a crisis occurs and beyond the diagnostic benefits. This routine also strengthens the very cognitive muscles it's designed to monitor, because asking questions like, "What day is it?" or "Where am I right now?" engages the brain's orientation systems, while recalling names or facts taps into memory centers. And this stimulation, even in brief moments, is like daily exercise for the mind, keeping neural connections active and reinforcing the pathways that help retain clarity, attention, and spatial awareness. And the beauty of it is that it takes place in a space already associated with care and self-respect. The bathroom mirror, where so many of us have looked ourselves in the eye during moments of reflection, transition, or vulnerability. And to add a mental practice that feels natural, grounding, and empowering. And what begins as a quick mental check soon evolves into a ritual of reassurance, especially for those who may not live with others or have anyone observing changes from the outside, because independence is precious, and this test helps preserve it by giving older adults the tools to advocate for themselves from the inside out, and it also fosters deeper conversations with loved ones. As seniors who use the test may begin to share observations or concerns early on, reducing the risk of misunderstandings or delayed diagnoses. And in this way, a quiet moment in front of the mirror each day becomes a ripple effect of proactive care, spreading outward into families, doctor visits, and lifestyle choices, and the dignity of this process cannot be overstated. It offers control, awareness, and empowerment at a time when many feel those things slipping away. And that makes it not only practical, but deeply humane, because aging is not just about preserving physical health. It's about honoring the whole person, their memories, their story, and their sense of self. And when we create space for that kind of honoring through simple, repeatable habits, we support a richer, more connected experience of growing older. One where mental health is not a distant concern, but a daily touchpoint, a quiet ally in the background of life's routines. And even if the answers to the 3 questions become slower or more uncertain over time, the act of noticing is still a victory, a sign that you are watching over yourself with care and awareness. And that is something no test result can measure, because it speaks to the spirit of aging well, not with fear, but with curiosity and courage. And those are qualities that illuminate the path ahead, no matter where it leads. And as this ritual becomes part of your daily life, as you let these quiet questions echo gently in the corners of your mind each morning while brushing your teeth, you begin to notice something even deeper taking root. Not just the confidence that comes from observing your own mind, but a kind of peace, a reassurance that you are still the author of your own experience, still capable of meeting each day with awareness, with curiosity, and with the power to respond to change instead of shrinking from it. And it's that quiet strength that becomes the true gift of this practice, not just detecting a symptom or catching a shift, but cultivating a relationship with yourself that is grounded in care, attentiveness, and love. Because in a world that often rushes past the needs of older adults or reduces aging to a list of conditions or checkboxes, this simple test reminds you that your awareness is still sharp, your life still valuable, your role still active, and your experience still meaningful. And that matters because the mind, just like the heart, thrives when it is seen, respected, and supported. And in those 2 or 3 minutes each morning, while toothpaste foams and your reflection looks back at you, you're affirming that you are here, that you are paying attention, that you are not afraid to check in with your thoughts, and that you deserve to live these years not just safely, but vividly, connected not only to the people around you, but to your own inner world. And this kind of daily self-check-in creates ripple effects that go far beyond brain health. It deepens emotional resilience, it improves decision-making, and it helps you hold on to the little details that give life texture and richness, like remembering the punchline to a joke, the face of a dear friend, or the reason you walked into a room. And yes, there may be days when an answer is slow to come, when the date slips away or a name momentarily escapes you. But the beauty of this practice is that it teaches you not to panic in those moments, but to observe, to breathe, and to continue watching, not with fear, but with informed care and patience. And that watching, that quiet tracking of your mental landscape, becomes a guidepost not only for you, but for those who love you, giving them a clearer window into your needs and giving you a stronger voice in your own health. And the more this habit becomes woven into your morning, the more it strengthens the bridge between daily routine and deeper well-being, between autopilot and alertness, between passive aging and empowered living. And if you ever start to feel alone in this journey, know that you are not. There's an entire community of people just like you, seniors who are stepping into this stage of life with boldness, grace, and a commitment to living fully. And here at Healthful Living 60 Plus, we are honored to walk that path with you, to offer tools, encouragement, and real-world strategies that speak to the challenges and triumphs of aging in today's world, because aging doesn't mean disappearing or fading into the background. It means growing into a new kind of wisdom, a new kind of presence, and we believe every older adult deserves to be informed, respected, and empowered to care for their mind and body with clarity and confidence. And that is exactly why we share these kinds of insights, not to overwhelm or scare you, but to give you what you need to take action today, to make choices that help you feel stronger, steadier, and more at peace. And if this video has sparked even a small moment of reflection for you, even one pause where you thought, I want to try that, or maybe I should check in with myself more often, then we invite you to keep going, to try the 3-question test tomorrow morning and the morning after that, to make it your own, to speak the questions aloud or just silently to yourself, and to know that each time you do, you're taking part in something powerful, something profoundly human, the act of tending to your own well-being with intention, with gentleness, and with wisdom that only comes from experience. And we hope you'll continue exploring with us here at Healthful Living 60 Plus, where every tip, every insight, and every shared truth is offered with one goal in mind: to help you live not just longer, but better, with the clarity, comfort, and confidence that comes from truly knowing yourself and caring for the life you've built one day at a time.